Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the After Class Talk 2021 on SDG series, episode 8, Climate Action. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. And there are 17 global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. And in this episode, we are going to have a sharing session on the goals number 13, which is climate action, under the topic, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. My name is Mefti, and I'll be the MC for today. Thank you for joining us, and I would like to welcome our distinguished guest, the Manager of International Office of Telkom University, Ibu Indah Fajarwati. Hello, Bu Indah.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you for joining us, and also the Assistant Manager of International Mobility, Ibu Lia Marlia. Hello, Bu Lia. How are you? Yes. Okay, and also I would like to welcome also our honorable guest speaker for today. We have two guest speaker, Pak Pradipta Dirgantara, a lecturer of Communication Science of Telkom University. Good afternoon, Pak Pradipta.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And also
My
a
pleasure.
student of Universiti Teknologi MARA Malaysia, Muhammad Iqkma Hakim. Hello, Iqkma.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Iqkma?
I'm a little bit under the weather, but it's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully you can get well soon. So, and thank you for joining us, although you are not in a very good condition. And also, I would like to welcome all international students. I think we have several students from Malaysia and also from Timor-Leste, from Zimbabwe. I saw familiar names, and also from Kazakhstan. And not forget to our Indonesian students from Telkom University and other students from Indonesia. Hello, everyone, and welcome. To know that you are here, I would like to ask you to turn on the camera. And I'm going to show you, okay, a minute, the rules for today's event. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Okay, can you see the screen? Yes. So all participants should turn on the camera during the event, and all the participants should turn off the microphone during the speaker's presentation and may turn on the microphone during the open discussion sessions. During the open discussions, all participants can ask questions to the guest speaker or to other participant if you would like to ask. And for those who want to ask questions directly to the guest speaker or to other participants, you may use thumbs up icon on the reaction features, or you can also drop your questions on the chat box. And we have several door prize during the event, so don't forget to join the event until the end. Okay, so before we go to the main agenda, I would like to invite you to play the games. For the warming up, we have Kahoot Games here. And you can see on the screen, you just need to open the Kahoot Games on your web, www.kahoot.it, and enter a game pin. So there will be a prize for the winner, 100,000 rupiah, in the form of e-money or in the form of Google Play. So let's play the game first for the warming up. So kindly open the web, kahoot.it and answer the game pin 346985. Kindly use your real name, yeah, so we can identify the winner at the end. Thank you, Maximus, Kamaru, Rafli, Anis Dini. We have 65 participants here. So at least half of the total participants to join the game. We are going to start. Humphrey, thank you. Zakia. Hi, Sarah. 21. We need more participants. At least reach a half of participants. Thank you, Nurul. Okay, Abdul Hakim. Okay, 29. Okay, maybe one more so we can start the game. Okay, thank you, Rosi. Nuraila. Yes, we may start the game. Okay, it's about the SDGs number 13. In what year were the SDGs adopted by world leaders? I think I've mentioned it on the beginning of the event. Yes, it's in 2015 by UN members. Yeah. So who's leading the game? Oh, Raihan Abdillah. Max, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his enduring contribution to climate action. Yes, it's Al Gore. So let's see who's leading now. Rosie. Okay, next. Accounts around 2/3 of all greenhouse gases which trap heat in the atmosphere and causes warming planet. With carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, or methane. Yes, it's carbon dioxide. So let's see who's leading the game. Okay, Raihan. Okay, number 4. The ocean, which cover how many percent of the Earth's surface, play a vital role in the global climate system. Yes, it's 72%. So let's see who's leading. Raihan is still leading. Okay, next. Which of the following is not positive action to help rebuild economics from COVID-19 pandemic urged by UN Secretary? Yes, plant more trees. Oh, Raihan is still leading. Okay, number 6, climate action is SDGs goals number. You can take a look on the picture actually. If you can see it clearly, there is an answer on the picture. Yes, it's 13. Actually, it's cheating. Yeah, you can see the answer on the picture. Yes, Raihan is still leading. Next, number 7. Which of the following is an example of climate? Yes, average temperature of world in the past 30 years. So Raihan is still leading. Okay, next. Number 8. The following human activities causes greenhouse gases except. I think it's quite easy. It's walking and cycling, of course. I think it's to reduce because of greenhouse gases. Oh no, Maisaro is leading the game. Okay, this is true or false. Climate change affects mental health of people. Is it true or false? Did you experience the mental health because of the climate change effect? Yes. So now Maisaro still leading. Last questions. What can individuals do to contribute towards achieving the SDGs? Yes, all of above. True. So let's see who's gonna win the door prize for today's third place. We have Salma Lydia. Second place, we have Raihan Abdillah. And the first place who will get the door prize is Maisaro. Congratulations, Maisaro. Okay, Maisaro, are you here?
Yes.
Hi, Maisaro. Maisaro, you are from UTHM?
Yes, I'm
UITM,
from
sorry.
UITM.
Okay, so you will get 100,000 rupiahs in the form of Google Play. We are going to send you the Google Play account with the amount of 100,000 rupiah. Congratulations, Maisaro.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so without further ado, because we have already played the games for the warming up, I hope you already get warm. And we will invite our first guest speaker for today, Pak Pradipta Dirgantara. He is a lecturer of communication science in Telkom University. He is an environmentalist and also former TV journalist. He finished his master degree on environmental and energy management in University Twente, the Netherlands. So please welcome Pak Pradipta Dirgantara.
All right, thank you, Bu Mefti.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. I hope you are well and healthy and happy. Today I'm going to talk about the climate action. As Bu Mefti mentioned before, I am currently working as a lecturer at Department of Communication Science at Telkom University. I am teaching environmental communication, which has been my core subject and my research interest. So I don't want you to see this session as a lecture because the topic of this session is after class talk. So it's going to be a casual conversation between both of us, and we are going to share a lot of things related to climate change and global warming and how we can together tackle it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen first. All right, can you see my slide?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so can you see the Earth from up above? And you see the Indonesian archipelago. So this is like our beautiful Earth. Can you imagine 50 years from now, or even 100 years from now, if we keep over exploiting the natural resources on our beloved Earth, what will happen to our future generation? I am sure that each of us want to have kids and then grandkids and then grandkids. And the point of having this climate action implemented is that to help our future generations access the same things as we have right now. So it's really important for us to have the same perspective about the global action and also local action. So nature has an infinite cycle of maintaining things from seasons like summer to autumn to winter to spring to summer again. And then from day to night, and then we can see the plants grow to wither. And that cycle is absolutely natural. But the problem begins when human activities change its cycle, make the cycle turn faster, or even disturbs the cycle, or more worse, exacerbates it. As you can see on the slide, this is the picture from NASA in 2013. The picture on your left is Muir Glacier in 1941, and the picture on your right is Muir Glacier in 2004. You can see that there is significant difference between these two pictures. But because we live in Indonesia, we can say, of course, that doesn't affect us. So what's the point of knowing this? This is something that happening globally. And this is something that started just around the corner of the world in Alaska. And what is going on with Earth? If you look at the previous slide, the glacier or the ice was melted into a lot of water. And because we live in Indonesia, most of us, we didn't have the urge to know about that. Because long time ago, global warming was still unpopular topic. But then again, climate change and global warming have been a very, very popular topic around the world since An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore debuted in 2006. If you see this figure, this is also from NASA 2018. The present is warmer than the past. So NASA has been recording the temperature from 1881 to 2019, particularly until present, but this data shows up to 2015. And as you can see, the trend is has been increasing. So there is an increase in temperature that makes our Earth a little bit warmer. So if you haven't felt the Earth getting warmer, it means that we have something different in perspective, and we are going to talk about that later. So in this topic, I don't think we all are here to debate whether climate change and global warming is real or not, because it's happening. But we are here to find a way how to tackle it together. We want to share about how we combine and collaborate our efforts to at least reduce the sources of climate change and global warming, and how to adapt with the impact of climate change. So if you haven't felt the earth has been getting warmer, I want to share my experience. Like few weeks ago, I was in Jakarta, and at noon, I went to Bekasi. Anybody lives in Bekasi? Bekasi, Jakarta. During the day, it is very, very scorching hot at noon. And then when I arrived in Bekasi, I checked my wristband that showed the temperature. The temperature showed 50 degrees Celsius. Can you imagine it? It's like 50 degrees. I thought there was something wrong with my smart band. Okay, and then I checked my weather forecast, and then it turned out my weather forecast also showed nearly the same. It was around 48 to 49 degrees Celsius. So that's why if you live in Bekasi, in Tangerang, or around in Jakarta, the temperature has been getting hotter. And when I was in Netherlands in 2013, I studied there for nearly 2 years. That year, there was only few snow in winter in the Netherlands. That was really unusual. And at the same time, simultaneously, in Egypt, there was snow. So there was like, I don't want to call this a miracle, but it was like global phenomenon that was changed by our activities. Okay, there is a well-known analogy for this behavior that's, I think, very, very terrifying. If you heard about boiling frog syndrome, it depicts very well how we adjust ourselves in the face of global warming. So we are normalizing weather conditions in the face extraordinary climate change. We sometimes become oblivious to how bad things have become. So this analogy, you can imagine there are two pans, and then one pan, you put several frogs inside of it with water, and then you turn on your stove. And then the temperature will be getting warmer, hotter gradually. And the frogs will not realize that. That's why the boiling frog effect is the idea that a frog immersed in slowly heating water will not notice the gradual change in its environment. It is different when we boil the water first, and then we put the frog, and then the frog will jump out of the water because it feels the water very hot. But because global warming and climate change happen very, very slowly in an unnoticeable manner, we cannot see the significance while it's happening. So based on the quiz, I think you already know about the climate change, and you can find this information a lot on Google, but I want you to highlight several points here. So climate change can be anthropogenic and natural. So this is the definition from Hegel and UNFCCC. But I want to highlight that climate change is natural, but our human activities can cause the climate change to turn faster. So we fasten the cycle. That's why if people keep saying climate change is natural and it's happening and we don't have to worry about that, they are totally wrong, because there is also anthropogenic climate change, which means that every activities, so for example, we eat some food, we travel, we buy clothes, there is the effect to the climate change. So a drastic climate change has been noticed during the last several decades with so many natural disasters dominating in most parts of the world. If you check the video on YouTube, you will find out a lot of change in climatic patterns. And the scientists have identified the anthropogenic climate change and also this natural change as the immediate sources of climate change. So I want you to highlight that anthropogenics mean that the human cause climate change, where the nature refers to climate change as part of nature cycle. And this is the definition of global warming. So human-induced warming reach approximately 1 degree Celsius. So that's why it's getting warmer. I don't know about you, but I live in Bandung, where it is supposed to be very cool, very cold, especially if you live in Lembang. But nowadays, even in rainy season, the weather feels like humid, really, really humid, and also very hot. And people will consider this as a natural phenomenon and then keep neglecting the symptoms that the anthropogenic influence in other parts of the climate system. So it is likely that there has been a substantial anthropogenic contribution. So whatever we are doing, like even we are breathing, we are inhale the O2 and then we exhale the CO2. So I often joke with my students that even if we keep still, just like sitting, we are going to contribute to the CO2 pollution, even if we do nothing. So this, the evidence of anthropogenic influence, including the surface temperature, extremes have likely been affected by anthropogenic forcing. And the most important thing is that there are a lot of uncertainties in climate change, global warming. Scientists have identified and predicted about the factors and also the drivers of climate change and how they can halt the global warming of 1 degree Celsius. But there are a lot of uncertainties because it involves every single person on this planet. And when we involve a lot of people, a lot of uncertainties emerge. I don't think that in this 65 people in this virtual room have the same perspective about how we deal with climate change. So that's why the uncertainties remain. And what about the Indonesia and climate change? My research was about the REDD+, reduction of emission from deforestation and forest degradation. And it opened my eyes that Indonesia is not only the biggest country with biggest mega biodiversity, but it is also one of the world's leading greenhouse gas emitters, or GHG. So it has risen in practically all sectors over the last 2 decades, including land use, and then energy, agriculture, industry, and waste. And currently, the land use and energy sectors account for 80% of Indonesia's greenhouse gas emission. So in Indonesia, CO2 emission from transportation are nearly 30% of total emissions, and mostly from land transportation. If you are listening to this, you can imagine what effort can you implement in your daily life, because actually it's really simple. At the same time, it's very complex to enforce a climate action in our society. So this is in Jakarta. How are climate change and global warming affecting Indonesia? So by 2050, about 95% of North Jakarta will be submerged. North Jakarta has fallen 2.5 meters in 10 years, and it is continuing to sink at a rate of up to 25 centimeters per year in some areas. As you can see, the above picture is in 1990, but the below was in 2019. So there is a significant change in sea level water rising. So it has an impact to people who live in North Jakarta, people who rely their jobs and also their family by making money in North Jakarta, because in 2050, the prediction, the Jakarta will be drowned, especially North Jakarta. I'm not fear mongering, but I want you to take this as a precaution that the threat is not a laughing matter. So if Jakarta is sinking at a rate of 1 to 15 centimeter each year, just let's say, with over half of the city currently submerged, it means that in North Jakarta, the impact will be tremendously instant, and people will have to move from their residence, especially poor people and marginalized communities. So that's why the Global Development Agenda began with the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. You already talked about the SDGs on the quiz, and I assume you already discussed about number 1 to number 12. So we think that why do we have to make numbers on these goals for each goals? We see this thing as a separate goals, but in reality, each goal is closely related to each other. No poverty, and then zero hunger and well-being, gender equality. They are also closely linked to climate action, especially sustainable cities and communities, and also responsible consumption and production. And how is it they are linked to each other? We think that sustainable development is when the three aspects of environment and then social and economy intertwine with each other. That's like a very traditional perspective. But sustainable, according to the concept, is when the environment can cover the activities in social and economy. That's why we have to remember everything we do must reflect our concern on environment. Because if we take a look at the left picture, it means there are some activities on social and an economy that doesn't align with the environment. While at the picture on your right, it means that the social and economy are both covered in environmental scopes. So SDGs in Indonesia has been really, really complicated. So previously conceived as MDGs, SDGs are expected to be achieved by 2030. And on the quiz, we learned that in 2015, the 183 countries declare and adopted the SDGs. But SDGs are complicated because one goal has several indicators to be accomplished, especially within 15 years from 2015. The MDGs, if I can say, it didn't go very well because there are a lot of indicators that didn't check and then didn't succeed. But from MDGs, we learned that so many goals were still difficult to be attained. And then we expand the MDGs into SDGs with 17 goals, which I think is kind of ambitious for all of the countries. But that's from the perspective of government. But in Indonesia, we focus on four things mostly. The first thing is resilience. It means to establish mitigation and adaptation and climate, and also disaster reduction risk management, because climate change is closely related with disasters such as landslide, flood, and also the pollution. And that's why we need to establish a very strong resilience. Resilience is a skill or a way that when we are bent, we are not broken. So just assume that when you ride a bicycle and then you fell down, and then you easily get up and you quickly get up and then you go back onto your bike. So that's the resilience. You don't stop, but you learn and then continue doing what you are doing right now. and then close the gap. So the SDGs must focus on women, youth, local, and marginalized communities. Why? Because these groups are highly impacted by the climate change, especially poor people. Rich people, they have resources, they have access to education, to better health system, to better food. But poor people, when they get impacted by climate change, they can do nothing without government's help. So that's why in Indonesia, we need to have an urgency to close the gap between the rich and also the poor in the term of facing facing climate change. And then also improvement such as education, awareness, and capacity of the human resources and institutions. The institution led this institution improvement to the government. I want to highlight about the Telecom University role in climate change, such as this talk. So I am really appreciating this initiative because I think the students should be familiar with the SDGs. And Telkom University also ranked as ninth green campus, if I'm not mistaken, by by Universitas Indonesia Green Indicators. And also I am teaching environmental communication. So that is an effort to spread awareness about the environment, also about the SDGs. And then last one is financials. There is a mobilizing green climate fund. So environment, global warming, and climate change are very sexy issues that attract a lot of fun and then partnerships. So we need to make sure that the government is allocating the money to the needs, such as the women, the poor, and marginalized communities, especially for the youth. Like most of you are students here right now, because when I grow older, I am already old right now. But when I am growing much, much older, you are going to get the torch from me. So what we are doing now from my generation to your generation is passing the torch so that you can continue what we have been fighting for. And then you also have to criticize and be critical about how the government implements and also how they involve the society. But in reality, SDGs so far, in my opinion, you can disagree with me, are not doing so well because food loss and waste in Indonesia is still tremendously high. So food loss and waste in Indonesia has reached around up to 184 kilogram per capita per year. It means from 2000 and 2016, there is up to 125 million people who can be fed due to the loss of nutrition. And then we also have the fossil fuels transportation, which is the most polluting sources in the cities, accounting for 70% of overall pollution. So food loss and waste, fossil fuels transportation, and also clothes waste. 2/3 of Indonesian people, 66%, have thrown garments away in the last year. So I want us to relate to these all three things because of course we eat a lot of food to move for our energy, and then we use transportation for our daily life, and then also we buy clothes. So in reality, the three things that we are close with can contribute to climate change and also global warming. So we don't have to make a very, very utopian effort to combat climate change. Just start from something small, from ourselves, from the food loss and waste. If you feel you leave a lot of food leftovers, then you have to realize that you need to reduce your consumption if it goes to waste. And then if you are not really in the urgency to use fossil fuel transportation, you can just take a walk. It's healthy, is refreshing. It's very good for mind and body, or even you can ride a bike, which has been very popular in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic. And then also clothes waste. I see a lot of my students, they sell their used clothes as pre-loved wares. I don't know why they call it pre-loved, but in my generation, they call it a second-hand thing. But it's more, maybe more appealing, or maybe something that you take care of and then you shift the ownership of the things. But the point is, when you buy clothes, you have to remember that how long are you going to wear that cloth. Otherwise, especially I am a Muslim, so every Lebaran, we celebrate many things with food, and then with new clothes, maybe with new gadgets and electronics. And without us even realizing it, it has become clothes waste, and then it has become issue in contributing to CO2 emissions, because clothing and then food, anything that is processed by fossil fuels can emit CO2. And the problems also emerge when we are unsure when to shift our mindset to an ecological worldview. We consume a lot and a lot. We spend a lot of money, even if we're stressed. And then we go to malls, and then we see a lot of discounted price. Wow, that's like make you feel happy, right? But the thing is, if you go into your wardrobe, or your cupboard, or even you take a look around your room, there's still something that you can use. So if I ask you to change our mindset, to stop using the CO2 fossil fuels, can you do that? Of course not. It takes time. And also, we don't know how quickly we will drop our addiction to fossil fuels. If I want to go to Jakarta, of course, I will not use bicycle. It's crazy, right? If I want to go to Bali, I cannot swim from Java to Bali just to save fossil fuels. That's also not feasible. So that's why we need to know how quickly we will drop our addiction to fossil fuels. So this is a reflective contemplation for all of us, and you don't have to answer this, but you can keep this in mind. You can start from now, slowly by slowly, step by step, like baby steps. Because if we use a drastic measure, sometimes it's not going to work. Because if you, for example, if you love someone at the first sight, maybe it's not even real, because that's the first impression. So that's why you have to know first. So you have to know about the shifting your mindset to more an ecological worldview, and then you also can gradually reduce your addiction to fossil fuels. And I know it's hard, especially for students, because there is peer pressures, and then you see your friends is riding a new motorcycle or new car, and then you just walk, and then you just use bicycle, and then you feel ashamed. You don't have to worry about that, because you are contributing to a positive impact. So that's the difference, yeah, between peer pressure. So you have to influence your friends to combat this climate change together. And the last one, we don't precisely know how the climate system will recalibrate to human perturbation. So we change, we adapt, but the uncertainties are still high. So even though we drop this addiction, and then we shift our mindset, we don't know exactly how the nature will respond to us, because nature is a very complex ecosystem. So a change in one ecosystem or subsystem can also affect the entire system. So the scientists have been doing a lot of effort to find out how we can measure the change when we shifting our minds. So this is the saying from Hakan Bjorkman, country director UNDP Indonesia. I want us to focus on people who less unfortunate than us because they are walking on this earth with very light carbon footprint. Of course, the rich people, they will have iPhone, I don't know, iPhone 14, iPhone 15, and then they will buy iPad, something like that, and consume more because you have a lot of money and you can afford that. But the less fortunate people, the poor people, they have limited sources. And then when it comes to climate change, they will be hit hardest by the effects of global warming because they live in the most remote places, which are prone to droughts, for example, and floods and landslide. If you have a lot of money, you can build house in a mountain just to avoid the floods. But for people who work as a laborer and then they cannot afford their daily life, they cannot afford losing to a climate change. And how can we combat this climate change? We are familiar with the mitigation and adaptation. So let's give the government a hand because the strengthened regulation are government job, but I don't think the government cannot solely rely on their policies. So that's why we need a collective effort, collective action from our communities by reducing the GHG sources and enhancing the carbon sinks. The carbon sinks means the ecosystem or plants or ocean that can catch the CO2. So by planting, by gardening, especially the mothers, if your mothers are into gardening, planting the water every afternoon, and then they talk to the plants, please grow nicely. So actually they are contributing to combat the climate change. And then we have to ask ourselves, when it comes to an individual effort, what can we do? So, and then the adaptation. So the mitigation is to reduce the source of the climate change, but adaptation is how we adjust with the impact of global warming and climate change. For example, the government put an adaptation strategy by setting high priority issues such as sea level rise and etc. And the community, you can do a collective action to train for climate related disaster and then grow more diversible edible plants for food security. If you are into plants, if you have a soil backyard or front yard at your house, just please do some gardening because it's really helpful. And we have also to get accustomed to the climate change. For example, for the hot weather, we can complain about how hot the weather is today, but then it will not solve the problems. So what can we do is we get accustomed to the climate change. If the weather is very hot, we can, for example, not turning on the air conditioner. So it's kind of, the other way around because I want you to go outside and feel the wind breeze instead of using the aircon. So that's why as individuals, we actually have a lot of things to do. Like we are doing right now, this is a community collective action. We talk a lot about global warming and climate change and how can we deal with such an issue. So we don't have to wait for the government's help. So let's start from us, from your family, for your hood, your neighborhood, and then for your friends. This is my climate action plan. So I usually make a very thorough climate action plan because I really care about the environment. I am an avid hiker. I go camping once in a month, and then I go cycling. I really like diving. So nature has been my sacred place. So that's why I want to make a concrete action plan. For example, you can adopt this in 2021 and 2022. What can you do for the environment? For example, in October 2021, I'm going to adopt or plant 3 trees because I live in a very highly densely populated residential area. I cannot afford the soil, so that's why I joined a adoption trees program in national park or in park around where I live, especially in Lembang and in Bandung. And you can ask them, the management or the owner, about adopting the trees. And then you can also store food properly. So if you waste so many food, try to store them properly. So you can, for example, you order a lot of food at the restaurant and then you have a lot of leftovers. Just take it at home and then eat them later. So it's going to help the producers and also the as an effort to combat climate change, especially the food loss and waste. So what can we do as a local actions? First, shifting our mindset about nature. So to have a sense of belonging to our nature, we need to make a connection to our nature. So there is a saying in Indonesia, in bahasa Indonesia, tak kenal maka tak sayang. So if you don't love something, it means you don't know about them. So if you want to love about something, you have to first take a close look at them. So we need to make a connection to our nature. Just go outside. If you live in a mountainous area, just take a very short hike to your the nearby jungle, nearby forests, or even city parks. That's totally okay, because this connection can only be made by going outside and appreciating the nature and its role in our life. Because I am not the center of universe. When I die, it's just like one single soul. But this universe, especially this earth, when it collapses, a lot of people will suffer. So we also need to learn about the knowledge and the practices from local communities that provides wisdoms and humility in taking care of our nature. There are a lot of indigenous people in Indonesia can teach us the humility and also the local wisdoms. Especially, I am a Sundanese, so in Sundanese tribe, the trees are symbolized as our grandfather. So we don't have to be afraid of getting into forest, because forest is our home. The trees are our grandfathers, and then the rivers are our grandmothers. So many indigenous communities in Indonesia and around the world see the nature as something sacred. So we don't have to change their perspective about how they take care of nature. Instead, we need to adjust our perspective how to take care of the nature itself by learning from their local wisdoms. Once again, shifting our mindset is very difficult. So you have to learn bit by bit, and then you have to go outside, forging a bond with the nature. And when you feel you love nature so much, you will take up responsibility for it. So I don't want you to be enforced or feel threatened to take a climate action. Instead, just take a look and around you, and what can you do for something that you love. If you cannot relate with the forest or the nature, take a look at your families or your future grandkids, future grandkids, or future wife. So you want them to be happy, to be wealthy as well, and to be able to access the resources as we are having right now. And then start from something small by reducing our carbon footprints. By building a climate resilience community with your friends, for example, like what we are doing now. I'm hoping that after this, you can connect with each other through social media, and then making a discussion or just throwing a small conversation with your friends. For example, when you hang out at the cafe, instead of gossiping, you can just ask your friend, have you ever heard about climate change? Do you feel that today's weather is very, very scorching hot? What do you think about that? So that's the awareness that you need to spread to your friends, to your surrounding. And then implementing minimalism. Minimalism is something I've been doing since 2012. If I move from one place to another place, I only need to take my 60 liters bag with me and then just go, because a lot of clothes unused in your storeroom, in your wardrobe, and they are just lying there, and then you go to malls and then you craft more. So if you watch about Marie Kondo's decluttering, I think this can shed a light about how we can choose, because the more stuff we have, the more burdens, psychological burdens we have in mind. So when we do the decluttering, it means we are prioritizing what is the most important thing in our life. And then eat what you need, wear what you need. It is obviously stated. There's this tradition in Indonesia that I think it's very difficult to not eliminate, but to reduce when it comes to a wedding. So in a wedding party, the more the merrier. You can see that a lot of food buffet served for the guests. And most of the wedding receptions, they leave a significant amount of food waste. They invite 500 people or maybe 1,000 people. And then the food waste, sometimes they just go to waste. Okay, so when you go to a restaurant or wedding reception, just take whatever you need. Please just finish your food. So I am really appreciating when I see people eat voraciously, and then they slurp the noodles, they lick their fingers, because it means, without them realizing, they are contributing to combating climate change. And then spreading the awareness, you can use your platform to raise awareness about the importance of taking climate action, such as on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, or Snapchat. Just post maybe once in a while, once in a year, it doesn't matter. Just raise an awareness about the importance of taking climate action. So these are the posters created by my students. So I really appreciate how the efforts seem small, but very meaningful for themselves. So it doesn't have to be big. You don't have to join a protest. The protest, the activists, the activism, they have their own field, yeah. So as a student, as individual, you can choose, you can opt for your easiest way to tackle climate change. So spreading the awareness through collaboration. So if you have time, I want you to grab your phone and then you open your Instagram. I think most of us have Instagram account, right? So I want you to search my account. You don't have to follow me, but better you will. I will follow you back. And then I want you to write a comment on my latest picture to answer your my question about the climate action. So what is your climate action? This is also how we deliver our commitment. Will you do this simple thing to extend the awareness? Okay, so just think a bit. Maybe after this event finishes, you can head to my Instagram and then make a comment of it. Spreading awareness is really useful if you have a lot of social media accounts. For example, I started podcast with my friends since last year, and we focused on the interaction between humans and nature. This is our latest episode talking about sustainable tourism in pandemic era. So we invited an expert or a practitioner have diverse perspective in environment, but have experts in their respective fields. All right, I think that's it for me. This is the references. If you have a correction, I am very welcome for your feedback. And you can also write your feedback on my Instagram. You can send me a DM or whatsoever. But I just want to say thank you to all of you who attend this session, because it means a lot for me. Because every single person, with every single step, with every small effort, means a lot in contributing to combating climate change as a collective action. So that's it for me. I hope you find my presentations very useful. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Pradipta. It was a very insightful presentations, and I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of questions from the participants, because I have questions as well, but we have to wait until the discussion session. So for those who have a questions to Pak Pradipta, to the second speaker, you may drop your questions on the chat box, or you may also ask directly to the speaker on the discussion sessions. So I hope you don't mind, Pak Pradipta, for waiting until
Of
our
course, I don't.
discussion. Yes, until our discussion session. So now I would like to invite our second speaker. Yes, our second speaker is Muhammad Iqkma Hakim, a student from Universiti Teknologi MARA Malaysia. He is also a participant of student SDG virtual workshop held by UITM and Atunet. So please welcome Muhammad Iqkma. Please, Iqkma.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Iqkma Hakim bin Idris. I'm actually a student of Faculty of Education, a bachelor in teaching English as second language. Let me share the screen. I'll try. Maybe Miss Mefti can help me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the session today, I would like just to share about the what's happening around us and what should we do. And I hope if I'm asking a question, you guys can just respond it into the chat box. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so today we'll start with climate actions. What are we should do, and do we realize it actually? Next slide. Okay, in Malaysia, if you guys look around, you guys, did you see that temperature kind of change from one time to time, as somehow it become hotter, and the government also issue a warning sometimes because of heat wave. We have seen in the news that some of the people being collapsed, being admitted to hospital because of heat wave. This heat wave is very dangerous. If you guys do some search on the effects of heat wave, then you guys will know how it will impact our brains, our nervous system, our body, as our body needs to be maintained in certain degrees Celsius, certain temperature. Okay, the second one, if you can see, is heavy rainfall. Do you guys listen to the news lately? There's a news of floods, landslides happening. It's occurring frequently right now. If you can see, before, during 2000 to 2002 to 2005, the news of landslide and flood is unusual news. But right now, it's like normal news. When we heard about it, we just, landslide happening there, flood happening there. We doesn't have the feels of urgency anymore because it's already happened frequently. Okay, the next one is the coastal area. You guys, if you guys are fond with beaches, with sea, I am asking you guys to go to the sea, watching and try look carefully. The water, the beach, the wave, does it really far from the land or getting near and near, year by year? If you look closely, as example at my place, Batulaya, Desaru, Johor, you can see that the water is currently being closer to the land, to the mainland. Okay, eating the beach, eating the land, and you can see the area that we used to have is like more and more submerged by water. And somehow there's a news will happen around September to January or February. The news of the wave are getting stronger and people are advised to not to go to beaches to see, to take a bath or anything. Because of what? It will cost them their life. Okay. Nowadays, look closely. Is there any more mangrove tree around our beaches? No, that's less because of we used to take all the trees, all the mangrove trees, we used to use it as a coal, as furniture, furniture substances, raw materials. Okay, and then we use the land to develop other place, to develop other things, to use it for other things. Thus we realize that if we take something from nature, it will cost us something also in the future. Okay, the next one is biodiversity. Look closely. The symbol of Malaysia is the Malayan tiger. But did you realize that the Malayan tiger is actually endangered because of human poachers, the deforestation, the destructions of habitat? Not only the Malayan tigers, all other animals are getting endangered by our actions. If not our actions, who else? We are taking their lands, we are taking their homes for our own benefits. And next, the water resources. Recently in Johor, there's a case of water intoxication. There's a toxic waste released at nearby river that causes the residential area to be quarantined, to be held as emergency because of the toxic waste. Why? Why it's happened? How come it will happen? And how come it can be happen? Since it's actually illegal to do that. Let's think about it. And the last one is crops. Greenhouse gases, greenhouse gases. We always listen, we always hear about greenhouse gases, but do we realize what is causing it? If you go around your town, your city, your districts, you can see there's many land given for plantations, agriculture. Okay, for agricultural students, because I take agricultural science during my secondary school, there's a season of harvesting and season of planting. Let me ask you, after you harvest a tree, a plant, or as example, you harvest a grains, paddy, what will happen to all the waste? Does we use it for biomass, or we'll just burn it because it's more efficient for us? It's always happening around us, but we doesn't realize actually. If we look closer, it's because of us and our ignorance. Okay, next slide. Okay, I want to ask you guys a question. What is the differences between temperature nowadays and 10 years ago? If you go at night, you look up at the sky, did you see the stars anymore? You can see the stars, but not as much as before. You can see the stars only at rural area, in the forest. But in the city, can you see it? No. There's no more stars to see. As stars are used to light up our sky, but now things that light up our sky is our own artificial light. Wildlife. You guys see wildlife rarely right now. Because of what? All places are being developed into housing area, roads, and wildlife had been allocated or reallocated to the nearby zoo sanctuary. Nowadays, we can see it in the sanctuary, but in the future, can we see it? In the past, we always listen to news that wildlife is in the forest. We are fascinated by the wildlife situation, habitats of the forest. Especially Southeast Asia, we are rich with biodiversity. This is our heritage, but we are losing it. And the weather change. Look at it now. Actually, during September, I think September until February, it's our monsoon season. It's always rainy before. 10 years ago, this is the rainy season where every day rains, rains, rains. But now, it's irregular. Sometimes rain, sometimes too hot, sometimes a moderate. Does you guys realize it? Try to think and remember how different it has been before and now. Okay, next question. And next slide. Okay, if you guys see here, this is the things that we are losing. Polar bear. Okay, I'm asking the audiences, the participants, can you answer me in the question? Why polar bear is one of the endangered species? Okay, drop your answer in the chat box. And green sea turtle. Green sea turtles are one of the most endangered animals because of what? This weather change will affect their reproduction system. Their reproduction system will depends on the either hot weather or cold weather. Imagine if the sea turtles that are born are all males, what will happen to it? Monarch butterfly. You guys see it just as a butterfly, but try to look at it in the food chain and food web. Did you guys realize the importance of every single living things in this life, in this environment, in this world, are important to each other in the food web? Even us, even the mosquitoes. If one of it missing, then it will cause imbalance in nature. Try to Google at United Nations report on endangered species, WWF World Wildlife Fund report on endangered species in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, in Indonesia. You guys will know that many animals are slowly disappearing from our grasp. Can we be held accountable for these losses of life? This is all living things. We are taking their life. We are taking their habitats. We are causing them to be extinct. It is on our hand. Next slide. Okay. Try to look on what and who caused all of the things that happen in our life. The first one that I will mention is only 3, but the others are all more. There are more of it. The first one is thousands of cars on the road every year. The cars company, are introducing more cars, new cars with new feature, advanced feature, modern design, stylish design, and colors. But does they implement advancement in carbon emission by car? Did they use a filter, catalytic converter? No. They are all focused on profit and design for the satisfaction of the customer. But the effects, the bills comes due. Remember that. Okay, the road are being used, being manufactured, the cars are being manufactured, the roads are being made from the land that are actually a forest reserve. We are cutting down the forest. We use that as highways. We use that as the second point, which is new buildings and housings area. Forests. It's actually forests, our reserve. also home for other living things. Look around you. Houses, there are more houses being built day by day, every year, every decades. You can look in the United Nations report, in Malaysia's report, in Southeast Asia's report. The land used for housing area and building new things are getting larger than ever. We are using too much space. But what does we do to cover back what have been taken? That's the question for you guys to ponder. The last one is single-use plastic. In daily life, we can say that we use plastic almost all the time. Water bottles, plastics that we use in groceries, single-use plastics in food packaging. After we eat, after we use that, where did it goes? To the dumpster. Does it being recycled properly? Or it will just end up being piles of plastics being at the dumpster? Plastics are not degradable, are not biodegradable. Plastics will last for centuries and more than that. If now we are digging for fossils, does our future children, future generations need to dig the earth and find our footprint, which is plastics? Does our plastics will be fossils next century? Think about that. Okay, next slide. Okay, look at this video, short video. Okay, next slide. Okay, in the video says that, yes, it's true, we can adapt to climate change, but does the other living things need to suffer of our actions? Do they can adapt to the nowadays situation, nowadays climate actions, nowadays climate situations? There are animals, they will survive, but only the fetus will survive. The others will die along the process. So what is our action? We need to think about what we can do around us, we ourselves, the society, and the nation itself. Next slide. Okay, this is the first idea, which is for us individuals. We need to use eco-friendly products. Yes, there are still less number of eco-friendly products in the society, in the market nowadays. But what can we do? We need to support them. So if there's support, there's demand, they will supply more. If we are demanding only the single-use plastics materials, then the single-use plastics industry will continue giving out supply more and more and more. The concept of demand and supply. If we are able to buy eco-friendly product, then we buy it. Contribute to the demand of it. So when there's demand, there will be more highlights and more spotlights on that product. And the larger community will also see it as it is important. It's like a trend nowadays. If you look around, if you buy new kind of clothes and other people see they like it also, they will buy it also. So it's like a trend. So when you buy eco-friendly product, post it on social media. Be proud of it because you are sustaining this whole world. Be proud of what you are doing. Second, use reusable bags. If you doesn't have reusable bags, just go and find some. It is nowadays it's not so costly, but it's also cheap. If you are going to IKEA, you have that single-use plastic. I know that's plastic, but you can use it many times. Go to supermarket, buy things. Do not ask for the plastics. Use your own bags. Bring your own carriers. If you are able, just put it in your shopping cart and then take it outside and put in your cars. Try to reduce the usage of plastics. However, the irony is we all are encouraging, we all are encouraging to not to use plastic and impose the charge of 20 cents or more for a single bag plastic bag. And then the audacity of our people is just to, it's okay, 20 cents only. It's okay. People nowadays are buying for plastic bags. Where's the realizations come? Does it really hit us that we need to conserve our environment, or we just say that it's okay, I have money, I can buy things with money, I can buy plastics, it's my own money and my right on what I want to buy on and you guys cannot say it's wrong or not. It's my right, isn't it? But is it your right? Is it our right to take and cause harm to the whole environment? The next one is DIY decomposition. It's not that I'm asking you guys to do compost for like the whole city or everything. Just use it for your own food waste. Example, the food leftover, the leftover of rice, vegetables. When you cook, you just took some of part of it, and the other parts will be going to the trash cans, to the trash bins. So use it to make compost. You can learn it from TikTok, from YouTube, how to do own compost, and use it as maybe fertilizer, or you can just bury it inside the earth, because only buried degradable food leftover. Okay, the next one is using public transport. I know that some of you like using public transport, but we need to use it more. Buses, MRTs, it's all around us. Government has given us the public transport, but why we doesn't use it? Why we insist on using our own cars, driving alone to the workplace? You are alone. You are using a car, and the car is emitting carbon. Remember? Okay. Next slide. Idea 2 for the society. It's our norm to use to always do open burning, like we gather the dried leaf, the rubbish around our house and light the fire and then burn it. We doesn't care about it. We just say that it's normal. It has been done since 20 or 30 years ago. But does it need to be continued? Is it a good practice? Does it beneficial to our own world? These things are one of the things that contribute, but we doesn't want to listen it because it's already in our norms. The second one is collective recycling. Recycling is not hard. You just need to put aside and separate paper, metals, and plastics. And you even can get money from it. Why not? For the third one is 3R competition, reduce, reuse, recycle in your own living area, in your own house, in your own family, or in your own housing area. Ask them to organize a competition, which is which house has the most recyclable items will get rewards, will get something. That's encouraging because people will do for something. People will always be happy for reward. Okay, next slide. Okay, the idea tree is for the nations, for the government. You guys, we guys are the future leaders. We need to do something when we are in the position of doing it. When we have the power, use it well. Okay, use it well for implementing the things that you cannot do without power. As example, renewable energy. I know renewable energy is costly, but will it benefit in the future? It has a long-term plan. If you can look at it, look into the future and not look into the current situation. It may be costly, but in the future, it will give you more benefits than you ever realize. The government also need to create public awareness. If you look at the TV right now, there's a lot of unnecessary TV programs, but there's no, I can say no more campaign or TV shows that shows about this biodiversity, the importance of our nation, caring about our environment, and so on. People are just neglecting it like it's nothing. Do you realize that actually what we are doing is just showing our ignorance towards our own life and towards the own environment? And the last one is add more public transport and coverage, which is you can see that the city have MRT, LRT, buses, but if you look at the rural area, does they have more coverage there? We're not talking about LRT, MRT. The buses, the taxis, the other public transport. It's only limited to cities, the urban areas, the cities that compact with people. Okay, next slide. Okay, look at it. Year by year, the thickness of Arctic ice is decreasing. Now it has decreasing to 40%. If you look at it, some maybe say that, Allah, that's so small. It's not even half. It's not even half, but it's nearly half. What will happen when the Arctic ice melt? Increasing in sea level. And the most dangerous one is the right now pandemic. We doesn't know what is the ice, what does the ice contains. They might have contains ancient bacteria, viruses that long ago buried under tons of ice. But when it melts, the bacteria and viruses will be released to the air and creating more pandemic. And do you guys wanted to live in your own house wearing masks, wearing protective gear all the time? I know right now you guys even hate it to live in this MCO, in this pandemic, in this COVID-19 situations. We wanted to live our life freely like before. And only 4 billion hectares of forests are left. 1 of 3. Okay? Look at it. We are losing our forests, the greens. Does it need to be like that? Or we can do more? Think. The only things that I wanted you to do is think of what you need to do, what you can do. Next slide. Okay, the question here is, why should we care? Why? If you turn on the blind eye, the evidence is in front of us. You will not see it, but slowly open your eyes, accept what had happened in front of us, what had happened around us. Our future generations is being at stake. They might need to live in a bubble, in a confined area. Maybe the future is best. We wanted a modern future, but does they need to live in hardships because of us? Okay, take one simple situation. Do you guys wanted your future children, grandchildren, and other generations to watch the animals from the green screen, from the hologram, from the virtual reality only? We can use it, we can see it in front of us, and some of it we can touch. But does our future generation need to see it just only by the digitals? Is it fair? Ask yourself, ask what we should do. Wake up in the morning, set a new goals, care for the nature, even a little step, because you are supporting your own life and your future generation's life. It's living. All of the things inside around us is living. That do not be the cause of the death of other living things. Okay. The next slide is the references for all the things that I have mentioned in the slides. If you have questions, feel free to ask through my LinkedIn or Instagram or even email address. That's all from me. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Iqbal, for the great presentation and also comprehensive one. So I would like to invite the participants to, for those who have a questions, you may ask the question directly. You can use the raise hand feature if you want to ask directly to the speaker, or you may drop the questions on the chat box as well. Yes, so is there any questions from the participants? Wait a moment. Okay, Ami, Azira. Hello, Ami, can you turn on your camera and also your microphone so we can greet you? Hello, Ami, hi. How are you? Ami, you can turn on your microphone first.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Ami, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, before you ask the questions, maybe you can introduce yourself, your name, and where do you come from, and your university.
So I'm Amy. I come from Malaysia. I'm taking TESOL in UiTM Malaysia. So I have a question for either one of the speaker actually. If we keep ignoring the fact that the global warming is actually real, what could be the end of the Earth? So for example, after the extinction of the habitat and the animal and even human, what could be the end of the Earth? And how long will it take to come to the juncture?
Okay, very interesting question. So we should predict what will happen. So maybe we can start from Pradipta. Maybe you can start first.
All right, that's a very interesting question from Ami. How long does it take for the Earth to end? I don't know. I haven't imagined that our Earth is going to end soon by ecological catastrophic. But I can assure you that Jakarta within 50 years is going to be submerged. So that's not far enough from our current situation. So if you are asking the juncture between the ecological catastrophic and then the end of the earth, what will happen? Of course, nature has its own way to restart its cycles. If we are not talking about the doomsday, well, we can talk about that based on our religion, but in our biological perspective, when nothing exists on earth, it always starts with water. and then the life itself with develops. Just take an example of when the forest is burned down. So when the forest, the primary forest is burned down, it will develop into a very, very useful soil. But it takes a very long time to start the cycle. So I can only give you an example in my country that Jakarta is sinking, and also my residential area is getting warmer and hotter, and also my observation when I was living in Netherlands that global warming has been happening and it affected the nature cycle. So the Egypt was snowing in 2013, the end of 2013, if I'm not mistaken, while in the Netherlands, there was no snow at all. And it happened around in a cycle of 10 years, 100 years. So in 100 years, there will be a tipping point. So what I want to emphasize is that we are like the frogs inside the boiling pan, because the increased temperature by 1 degree Celsius, if we take it, we of course can adjust with the temperature. But the gradual increase is very terrifying. It can affect the crops, it can affect the biodiversity, the animals, the plants as well. So let's think that it's not going to affect us, but it's going to affect the generation after us. So that's the point of sustainable development, that we provide an opportunity for the future generation to have access as much as money as we are currently have right now. For example, in Indonesia, we have a lot of water, but in some areas, the water even scarce. So we don't want that to happen for our future generation. You are still young, and by passing the torch from my generation to your generation, I suppose you are Alpha or Z generation, while I am still late millennial generation. So this generation gap should be bridged by giving understanding and also the affection towards the nature itself. So instead of imagining and waiting what will happen when the earth is collapsing, you can learn from a lot of research about the global warming impacts. One of them is Jakarta, where one of them is how the several animals are going to be extinct by 2100. So I think that's very concerning, especially if you really like to go outside into the nature. You can feel that when you are trapped in a traffic congestion, you feel suffocated, you feel bored, you feel stressed. But when you go outside, you go to a city park around your house, in your neighborhood, you feel relaxed and calm. So that's why the sense of belonging should be cultivated um, as a bond with you and nature. So if you ask me, how long does it take? I cannot give you a very exact time because it's beyond my capacity, but I can guarantee you for sure in 2050, if we are keep doing things like we are right now, in the terms of contributing to the CO2 emissions, it's not getting better. It's not getting any better. It's going to get worse. So I hope that answers your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Pradipta. Iqkma, would you like to add?
Okay, I just would like to add a little bit only, because Mr. Pradipta had explained it a lot actually, and it covered also my answer. Just here, if you take something from the food chain and food web, you can see that there will be effects of it, imbalance of nature. And when there's the imbalance of nature, that will cost you something. As example, right now, the thinning of ozone layer will cause are actually causing us to have more direct sunlight, that will cause us to have more unfiltered UV to us. So be it will affect us and giving skin cancer, cataracts, and others. So we are not having the actual power to predict what will happen and when will it happen. But if we quit doing this, we will suffer also. If not we, our next generation will suffer.
Okay, thank you, Iqkma, sorry. Amy, I hope it answered your questions. So, as Pradipta said that we are going to discuss about this topic. So, if any one of you would like to share your experience on the topic as well, you may share here with us. And I see someone's raising a hand. Humphrey. Okay, Humphrey, would you like to turn on? Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Greetings, everyone. I have two questions, so either speakers can answer for me, please.
Humphrey,
My
could you
first
please
question is
introduce yourself first? So all the participants
okay. No, sorry. My name is Humphrey Muchapirei. I am a student at Telkom University, Masters in Telecommunications Engineering. So my first question is directed to Pradipta. When you said North Jakarta will be submerged in a few years, do you mean it would be completely submerged under the sea, or you just mean the altitude level will be low? Do you mean that it will literally be under the sea by that time? Then my second question would be, I would like to know the difference between SDGs and MDGs. Is it that SDGs are part of the MD?
Yeah, okay, we get your questions, Humphrey. Thank you so much. So the question directed to Pradipta, please, Pra.
All right, thank you, Humphrey. I think by definition, submerge is going to be underwater. So the sea level rising will hit the land in North Jakarta. North Jakarta has fallen 2.5 meters in 10 years and is continuing to sink. So if you ask me whether it's really underwater or it's just only on the surface, you can imagine that the rate up to 25 centimeters per year in some areas in North Jakarta, which is more than double the global average for coastal megacities, which means in 2050, some part in North Jakarta, especially the outer North Jakarta, will be completely submerged. Okay, so Jakarta is not only receiving the pressure from the global warming, but the soil in Jakarta is already damp. It is very receiving pressure from the massive development and then the massive transportation. Jakarta is capital city of Indonesia. Of course, um, the natural capacity has reached its own limit. So that's why when a lot of factors contributing to the Jakarta prediction sinking in 2050, but global warming and also the pressure to the city capacity are significant. So that's why if you see my presentation, the difference between the picture in 1990 to 2019 is quite significant, especially in the coastal area in the outer northern Jakarta. So Actually, I want to ask you a question because if I'm not mistaken, Zimbabwe is a landlocked country, right?
Yes, that's true. We are landlocked. Yeah.
Do you have any obvious impact from climate change on global warming as a landlocked country?
Yes. We have actually had two incidents of floods, and we never used to have floods or cyclones, but we have had two cyclones in recent years. I think in the previous 5 years, and we have had heat waves, like Mas Iqkma was saying, people just collapsing from heat strokes. We have actually had that in Zimbabwe, but our climate used to be quite moderate and favorable for growing crops. We had balanced seasons, but now the seasons, it seems as if they have missed their cycles. You can have winter 2 months earlier. You can have rain coming late by 3 or 4 months. So we are actually feeling the effects of climate change in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, because Indonesia is an archipelagic country, so we have the advantage and disadvantage of having abundance of water, especially ocean. When it comes to global warming, the ocean can be our enemy. But in terms of managing fisheries and the ocean natural resources, it can be very, very useful for us. So each country has their own mitigation and adaptation strategy. What we can do from now is taking the research and also the prediction from the scientists really seriously. It's better if we are wrong about it. For example, let's say in 2050, the Jakarta is not actually submerged, but far from that, we already take a precautionary action so that we are going to prevent that from happening. If that's happening, we already ready and prepared. But if not, yeah, we are just lucky. It's not happening yet because Earth is moving towards a tipping point in terms of CO2 emission production, and also we consume a lot of things every single day, and the awareness seems very low. So that's why it's not fear mongering when I utilize the research from the scientists that says Jakarta is sinking because it's going to happen. If not, yeah, we're just lucky. But if it's happening, we have to take immediate action upon it. All right, that's your first question.
Yes.
Yes, and
And
the
the
second
second
question,
one,
the difference
I would-
between MDGs and SDGs.
SDGs. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so in the span of 15 years, the United Nations formulated different goals as a means for each countries, especially developed and developing nation, to work together to combat climate change, to combat poverty, and then disease, and then to promote partnerships. So MDGs ended in 2015. So it was started in 2000, but in my opinion, this is my opinion, you can disagree with me. By the span of 15 years, from 2000 to 2015, there are a lot of indicators that we have not taken up in the MDGs. But because the time was up, so the United Nations come with another solution to add another goals through SDGs. So MDGs initially got 8 goals, from the eradicate extreme poverty to improve maternal health and then global partnership. But then in SDGs, the goals were developed into 17 goals. And then it needs to be achieved in within 15 years, which means by 2030. So we only have 10 more years to attain these goals, which in my humble opinion is really, really ambitious. to eradicate poverty, to promote clean water and sanitation. But that's what we need to unite people. So we cannot say that eradicating poverty is not important. It is, but it signifies that these goals are going to develop even more. So we have a lot of homeworks to do. So we cannot solely rely on the government. Instead, we need to start from the bottom with our grassroots, with our communities, with our friends, families, and neighborhood. So maybe in 2030, when the SDGs ended and it is not yet achieved, another development goals will be developed from millennial to sustainable, or maybe another development goals, yeah, from at goals to 17 or maybe to 25 goals, which means we'll add up to our homeworks within the next 15 years.
Okay, thank you, sis.
Yeah, I hope that explains it.
Thank you, Pradipta. Also for Humphrey, thank you for the questions. So I think because we have a limited time, so I just we can only invite one last questions. Yeah. So is there any other questions from the participant? I think a lot of students, a lot of participants are curious about what will happen in the future if we didn't concern about the climate change itself. But as Pradipta and also Iqkma said, that the thing that we have to think about, the concern is that how to combat that climate change and also the impact itself to our environment. So is there any other questions? One last question. You may drop the questions on the chat box or you may raise your hand. We still have like 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes for the last questions. Is there any other questions from the participants? Because we're going to choose also one of the best questions. Actually, all the questions are good, but we have to choose one of the participants who will get the door prize. So is there any other questions from the participants? Okay, if not, maybe, okay, as Pak Pradipta said, Pak Pradipta also share the questions on his Instagram. So you may answer and share your opinion on that questions. Just follow Pak Pradipta social media. And also if you have any other questions to Iqkma, you may also follow his social media accounts. So since we have reached the end of this agenda, I would like to say thank you very much for Pak Pradipta and also for Iqkma for joining this event. And I would like to remind all the participants to fill out the attendance list, the feedback link that we have shared on the chat box. So to earn your certificate, you have to fill out that link, yeah. So so once again, thank you so much for our honorable speakers, Pak Pradipta and also Iqkma, and also for all the participants who joined us today. So we still have a lot of upcoming episodes on After Class Talk, whether it's SDGs, about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and also we have another series, International Student Series. So next month we have the series on international students. So if you are interested to join, don't forget to register on the link that we usually share on our Instagram account. So you may follow our social media account as well, our website, our Instagram, TikTok account, and also our Facebook. So yeah, once again, thank you for joining us. And I would like to invite all of you to turn on the camera. So we're going to have a photo session. Yes, so kindly turn on your camera. Okay, so in my count, okay, so I will wait for more students to open the camera and join the photo session together. Okay, on my count, 1, 2, 3, put your best smile. Okay, one more, you can use your base pose as well. Okay, in my count, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe and stay healthy. And see you on the next after class talks next month. Have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Pradipta and Iqkma.
My pleasure, Bu Mefti.
Thank you, everyone. See you on the next after class
Thank you
talk.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. You may leave the room. So I'm going to close the Zoom room in 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to close the Zoom room. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.